Captain, we have them! We've established Transporter Lock, the Star Trek podcast. Join Ken and Sabriel each week as they explore strange new episodes, seek out new plots and new characters, and boldly go where no podcast has gone before.
Well, I'll be happier than a milkman's horse. We are back here for Star Trek Lower Decks discussions here on Transporter Lock.
Why, Captain Sabriel Maston, I do declare it is very agreeable to see you on the show again.
Well, I think you are right about it being declarable between this introduction, Chief Engineer Ken Gagney.
Because this is something that we never expected to come back, and yet it did.
That they brought this back. This episode just blew me away. I was so happy. Hello.
Hello to you, and welcome to our audience, to our listeners, to our fans and fellow Trekkies. This is Transporter Lock. I'm Chief Engineer Ken Gagney, joined as always by Captain Sabriel Maston. Hello, Sabriel.
Hello again. We got 4 episodes to discuss this week because we've had time travel issues, tech issues. Someone was kidnapped on their way to a conference. So we've got a lot to squeeze in today.
Poor Geordi. They always abuse
Geordi
him
was
so badly.
Too?
Yes.
Geordi was too? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Not much for Trek news in the last 4 weeks. Star Trek Infinite came out. I bought it and returned it.
Without even playing it.
Apparently there were some issues where the game might not even progress if you get to a certain point. It's a tactical game, simulation games based on the game Stellaris, which is a game I've always wanted, never got around to playing. Think Civilization, think real-time strategy. It's called 4X. I don't remember what that all means. Explore, expand,
exploit,
exfoliate, exploit. Okay.
Explore, expand, exploit, exterminate.
Ways to the game is basically you play the factions of the Alpha and Beta Quadrant, and whichever one you do, you have different goals, objectives. So if you're the Federation, you want to expand and spread peace throughout the galaxy. If you're the Klingon Empire, you want to empire things, or same with the Romulans. You have different goals, and you don't have to go on those at all. You can change your civilization to become something completely different. And it kind of progresses through the show, like from TNG and on. It's like there's this mysterious group of beings who are all cyborgs to come and start attacking things and things like that. So, but apparently it was a little buggy at launch. It's like, I've got other games coming soon, including City Skylines 2, and I got to finish Zelda finally, and I got Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I can wait until this one's a little cheaper and is maybe fixed.
Yes, you should finish Zelda. I should finish Super Mario Wonder. And then we will, I hope, watch more Star Trek eventually, but there are no announcements about next air dates. Usually when one season of a show ends, they announce the next one. And we know that there is a 5th season of Discovery in the can. We hope that there's going to be a 3rd season of Strange New Worlds because it ended on a cliffhanger. We know a 5th season of Lower Decks was ordered back in March. We do know, here's some Star Trek news, that the 2nd season of Prodigy is going to air on Netflix.
So I wish Paramount had their own streaming service with this on.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. So once so I've already canceled my subscription to Paramount Plus. Like, all right, well, I canceled that about 2 weeks ago, so I got 2 free months. Like, well, I'm not going to use this, so I just canceled it. So
yeah, I think my annual subscription already renewed. And I don't know what else to do with that. So I guess I'm stuck with it until the next Star Trek airs, whenever that is. Maybe it'll be the Section 31 made-for-TV movie.
Yeah, who knows when that's coming through. Yeah, that's this mystery project here. What we do know is Discovery comes in 2024. We know there's this season 3 of Strange New Worlds, even if they haven't announced it yet, because it was said that they actually started filming the day the strike started. We talked about this before.
I forgot.
And then that didn't happen because of strike. And they haven't actually announced the season. I mean, I guess technically it could be hearsay, but I guess take it with a grain of salt, but that's what I understand.
Maybe Paramount will film the 3rd season and then decide not to show it.
Yeah. They'll wait for their own streaming service to start.
Right. Good Lord.
So yeah, Ken is all the way over in Germany.
Hi, yes, I'm Guten Tag. I'm calling from Munich. I just arrived today and I've not yet been to sleep, so I'm a little jet lagged. I apologize if my energy is low. I'm trying to bring my best self to the podcast. but I use an app called Time Shifter that tells me when to sleep and for how much, and that's supposed to help me acclimate to the new time zone and minimize jet lag. And it told me to get only 3 hours of sleep on the plane here, which was an overnight red eye. So yeah, I could use a nap right about now. I like a 9 hour nap.
So with that high energy that you've got going on here, we're gonna rapid fire talk about 4 episodes today.
Yeah, 4 episodes of Lower Decks. Your
Okay.
favorite Star Trek, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's up there. That and Strange New Worlds are my favorites here.
Yeah.
So let's get going with the first one. A few badgies more.
Yeah, season 3 ended on a teaser that Badgie was still alive, and finally we see that come to fruition. And he's not the seasoned villain. I thought he was going to be the big bad, but he wasn't.
Yeah. Some salvagers come find the cybernetic implant that Rutherford left behind, and inside was Badgie. Well, Badgie ends up taking over their ship, as Badgie does.
I was glad he didn't take over the actual people on the ship, kind of like how that AI did in season 2 of Discovery.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yep.
Yeah, because we already saw that recently, and like it looked like that's what he was going to do, and it looked like he like was able to inflict pain on them, but he didn't actually control their brains, Badgie. So I'm glad he didn't have that level of infiltration.
Right. Here, the mystery ship also grabbed some binars, destroyed them.
This is the first time we've seen Binar since they implemented the upgraded holodeck on the Enterprise D, right?
Maybe they've showed up on lower decks, but in any meaningful way, more than a haha reference. I think so.
Right.
Also, this episode is I'm skipping through here. It's been a month. This is where they were talking about how grapplers are cool. And I love that they've started adding this into Star Trek lore that everyone loves the grapplers. They even did it in Strange New Worlds in the crossover episode, and then they're doing it here too.
Oh, I knew that happened on Strange New Worlds. I forgot it was the crossover episode. That makes sense.
They were all excited about it, and I think it was on. It's like, yeah, the grapplers are cool.
Yeah, I like grapplers. Just total deadpan delivery. See?
That was just a random.
Yeah, and coming from La'an, that almost felt like a moment of vulnerability for her to open up and share that about herself.
Right? And she hasn't even started singing yet about trying to open up more. Anyway, let's stop.
I was really hoping you were going to say that she hasn't yet started singing about grapplers because I want to hear that song.
Let's see. This episode is where I also had Agamus and Peanut Hamper return.
Yeah, that was sort of the B plot. They had, was it Rutherford and Tendi? No, it was Boimler.
Boimler and Tendi.
That's right.
Agamus has claimed he had information on this mystery ship that's going around destroying everybody. And so they sent Boimler and Tendi to go talk to them. Tendi was supposed to go speak with Peanut Hamper to talk about her parole, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Her parole hearing. And I love it. These two, Agamus and Peanut Hamper, are like getting together, getting in on each other's plots and everything. They had this whole plan to break free from the planet and go take over the galaxy. And and with Peanut Hamper got away on her own. Like, and then Agamus uses Boimler and Tendi to get to where they were gonna meet up. And I like see takes over an entire planet in just a couple of hours. Which is hilarious.
Yeah, and apparently this was all part of Starfleet's plot to let Agamus go in whatever direction he needed to go to get his information out. And they're like, really?
It's fast.
I mean, Boimler said, yeah, this is nothing that Starfleet can't fix in an hour.
I got a kick out of it. I think they play fast and loose. It's like, yeah, this is just a threat. And they're making reference to like all the world's problem or all the show's problems happen and it be fixed in like an hour.
Oh,
His little joke.
I missed that joke. I get it. I just hope nobody died in that coup.
Starfleet to fix it.
No, didn't you watch Who Watches the Watchers? There are things even Starfleet can't fix unless it's with Benedict Cumberbatch's blood.
Right.
Right. I liked, since we were talking about Boimler and Tendi, I liked seeing the two of them together. That's not a pairing we get often. And I like it because usually it's like Rutherford and Tendi over here and Mariner and Boimler over there. And I like that they mixed it up a little bit. And I also liked when they were on the beach where Agnes was supposed to meet Peanut Hamper, and Tendi just had her shoes off and was playing in the sand.
Yeah,
And
they're not concerned at all.
she was just so utterly delighted. She's like, we don't have sand back home. If you want to stay here longer, that's okay with me.
It
I thought that was very cute.
was cute. I love Tendi. She's like one of my favorite characters.
Mine too.
The whole B plot is Agnes trying to deal with Peanut Hamper betraying him, or at least not going through with the whole plan, and he's sad about it.
Do you think she's actually rehabilitated at this point?
No, neither of them are.
Because she actually stood him up and she said that she actually was sorry. But that was the whole plot of the last time she was on this show.
She might be sorry. Doesn't mean that she is going to change, though.
You think she'll just revert to her old ways?
I mean, no, it's possible. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, you know how people are. I mean, it's like,
Change is hard. Change is hard.
change can be very hard. But that was a fun little subplot. But back to Badgie. Badgie, the AI, and he's threatening to destroy the Cerritos. Rutherford offers himself up, and Mariner chases after him. He's like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Wait, you don't have a plan?" He's like, "No, how would I have had a plan?" He was ready to just die for the ship.
Oh, sacrifice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I liked the inner turmoil that Badgie had, and it was very reminiscent to me of some of the experiences GLaDOS has in the Portal game series. I liked how he just kept splitting off, and eventually we had 3 different Badgies, and one of them died, which I was not happy to see. And it actually wasn't until after the show was over, like the next day, that I realized why they called the remaining surviving Badgie Gucci. Like I thought,
Badgie.
right, because the original Badgie has bad in his name. And so they were playing on that. Gucci. And he's actually like a character on the show now, and he actually showed up in the series in the season finale.
Yeah. Poor Logic-y.
Yeah, so they're not just writing off Gucci. It's not like just a one-time gag. He might actually show up and like go on away missions. Who knows?
With between Rutherford showing emotional support for Badgie, yet saw the personalities split, and they go through this whole adventure. And then was it Badgie starts connecting to all the computer networks. He's gonna try to take control of Federation stuff all throughout the galaxy. He starts getting like all this power, and he accidentally makes himself transcend with the whole koala to
Of course, there has to be a koala.
to a higher plane. Let's see, as things people speculate the Q continuum, or go visit the Black Mountain if you watch Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I was a little confused about how quickly some of that scene happened. They're like, oh, if we go to warp 9.9, then I can broadcast myself to all ships. I was like, we've never heard that before in Star Trek. The faster you go, the more people you can communicate with. What?
Fast and loose.
Yeah, it was very fast and loose. And the way he just becomes, he realizes how pedantic his desire to overcome is once he is omniscient. There was a direct-to-video Superman movie like that, where Lex Luthor gained Superman's powers. And the way Superman defeated him was by hitting him with a gravity gun, which not only made him heavier, but in some sort of a grand unified theory way that I don't understand, it also made like time speed up for Lex Luthor. And he realized that with all the powers he has as Superman, that trying to take over Metropolis was actually kind of petty.
Uh-huh.
Because the universe is so big, and why, oh my God. And I don't mean that he tried to take over something bigger. He just realized that domination itself is petty. So I was reminded of that, and also reminded of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. Did you ever read that graphic novel or see the movie?
No, I've only seen the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, he is. Oh, so you did see the movie.
Yeah, I started answering before you finished the sentence. Yeah, I've seen the movie. All I remember is going to Mars and his blueness all showing.
Yeah, I did not see the movie. I did read the book. I assume both end the same, with him basically departing our mortal plane, saying he's going to go start a new universe somewhere else.
I don't remember that even. I can see how
Okay.
this really got into my head.
Yeah, that's what happens in the comic book. He's just like, he becomes so powerful. He's like, everything that's the whole plot of this graphic novel that I've been a part of for the last 200 pages, it's actually kind of petty. I'm just gonna go start a new universe.
I mean, I can see that though. You go through the wars of like the world, and then the world tries to control you, and you're like, I am bigger than this. This is just stupid. See ya. Like, yeah, I see it. Like you start small because you lived as part of that world,
Yeah.
and like that is your entire universe, and then you realize, wait, there's a lot more universe outside this door.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Manhattan started as just a atomic physicist. He was a human. And then he like got discombobulated. And then in the movie, they discombobulated him again. And yeah, I would want nothing to do with this universe either.
So Badgie transcends. Rutherford wishes him luck, good luck on being everything. And then Agamus goes back to his support group back in Daystrom Institute.
And maybe his light will stay blue instead of red.
Yeah, that's right. That was a great thing. He can turn and shift his lights from red to blue. I'm like, yes.
And it sounded like it was an actual effort for him. Like you could hear him like really concentrating to make it happen.
Oh gosh, like this kind of thing happens all the time. It's like a trope. Is
Yep.
red lights equal evil? Like even in Overwatch game I play, there are android type beings called Omnics, and some have red lights and some have blue. And I'm like, they'll talk as if they're normal. Like fine, like you can tell he's evil because his eyes are red. Like,
But I think they did the opposite on the 1980s cartoon G.I. Joe because each side, Joe or the Cobras, had like laser guns because
ooh,
obviously
laser.
a kid's show isn't going to have a real gun. And I seem to remember seeing that the Joe's guns shot red lasers and the Cobra's guns shot blue lasers. And I remember even as a kid thinking, wait, that's backwards. The bad guy should be red.
Maybe things wrong all along.
Maybe that standard just hadn't been established yet, or maybe since Cobra Commander wore blue, maybe I don't know.
No, it was already established because Star Wars. But
Oh, good point.
I love how Homestar Runner made fun of this with the cheat commandos, and the bad guys are called Blue Laser. But we have more episodes to talk about.
Yes.
Switching over to caves. This was such a fun episode. Fourth wall thing, as they're making fun of how all the caves look the same because it's the same set every time redressed. And I love it. So they had the same story happening in the same place.
Even in the cartoon, it was the same set.
It wasn't they probably modeled some parts of it, but in the episode itself, everybody's story took place in a cave, was the same place, just redressed.
Oh, okay. And this was an anthology episode, which we don't get many of in Star Trek.
No, it was close to get to one of those bottle. No. What's that one where they go? The type of episode they call where
A ghost story episode?
the episode at the end of like TNG, where they just recap the season. There's a whole name for it. I'm drawing blank.
I don't remember any episodes that do that.
Yeah. There's a whole episode that just uses clips from previous episodes because there was a writer strike in TNG at the end of season 2.
Yeah, Shades of Grey.
Yeah. That episode.
Yeah, it was a clip. It's called a clip episode.
Clip show. That's it.
Yeah, but this is different. This is an anthology episode.
It is. It made me think of it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I gotcha. There was a great episode of Batman the Animated Series back in the 90s where all of his villains are sitting around a poker table and they're each telling a story about how the time they almost killed Batman. So you have like a 5-minute episode with the Penguin, a 5-minute episode with the Joker, 5-minute episode with Two-Face, and then they get to Killer Croc and he says, I once threw a rock at Batman. And they all just stop playing poker and they stare at him. And he's like, what? It was a big rock. And that's his whole thing. Like, there's no flashback. It's just him saying that. And then they move on to the next flashback. And they're not flashbacks
I love it.
in the sense of clips from other episodes. These are all like original tales. They just framed it as, let's all sit around the table and play poker.
That's amazing.
I loved it. So Caves reminded me a little bit of that. I'm not sure I liked the individual episodes though, because they were pretty momentous for being such short vignettes. Like I kind of felt the same way as Rutherford's friends. Like, wait a minute, you had a baby and you never told us?
Yeah, I think that's part of the charm as well. It's hilarious. They all had these big events and no one knew. It's like, it's just like, I mean, things happen in my life nobody knows about at all. Like, and it happens. Some things happen, and it also is kind of showing how things have changed as their junior grade now. Junior grades, they don't go on missions together. They even point that out at the start of this one. Wow, we're actually on a mission together. We've been had
That's
that for a
true.
while. So it's kind of poking in at that. They are having their own separate events going on, even if it's a lot of them are off screen.
Yeah, or with Delta Shift.
Or with Delta Shift. Oh, Delta Shift.
I did like that aging field that they found. And I was like, God, obviously you're not going to keep walking toward it. You'll die if you do that. But they're like, no, I'm going to get older before you do. We need somebody who's really young. And the fact that his leg actually fell off actually bothered me a little bit.
It's no different than very short treks. The guy beams in and his guts just fly out.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. For some reason, I thought that was funny.
It's like, I mean, they played again fast and loose with body parts like a few weeks ago. Captain or Commander Ransom just had his teeth knocked out. Like, we'll grow some new ones. Or the very first episode, Mariner just stabs Waymler with a bat'leth. Like, okay, or maybe it was herself by accident. In either case, someone gets stabbed with one. They're just very like, yep, we're in the future. Things get fixed quick.
No, didn't Mariner get hit like 3 times in the exact same place?
Yes, with an axe in the
Yeah, that's when I think that's when she was on Tendy's Homeworld.
Yep, Orion.
Yes.
But like when you live in a place in a TV show where the doctor can turn you back from a lizard person into a human, lickety split, like, hey, you just laugh these off. Like, it's part of the joke.
Right.
Just like we can fix it in an hour. Like,
although I remember in one of the first episodes of the Orville, and again, the first season was not the best of the Orville, one of the characters, I forget his name, was trying to teach Isaac the robot about humor. And the guy was like, okay, now you have to pull a prank on me, Isaac. And you have to do it when I'm least expecting it. And so when the guy is sleeping, Isaac cuts off his leg.
yes.
And I remember some of our mutual friends found that very unfunny.
And see here, I'm cackling about it. Like, it was really stupid. It was so terrible. Like, it was the dumbest possible thing, but they went there. I think to me it's funny because it didn't expect it.
Nor
but
did the guy
each
who
their own.
lost his leg. He didn't expect it either.
Rutherford has a kid. He has a bonding moment with Dr. Ta'ana. And they end up raising a kid together for a bit. We had the Delta Shift Chronoton adventure with Mariner.
Yeah, that's where they lose a leg.
And then we had the other one was Boimler and Levy. And Levy's a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
The conspiracy theorist part or his sub story?
I didn't like that Lieutenant Levy was right about some things.
Oh.
Because I don't think I mean, I know that nobody's going to take this seriously. It's just a comic, but there are people out there who believe conspiracies and they live in their own world and they will not agree on the facts. And it's just, I find that upsetting and frustrating. And for them to take one of those people and be like, no, actually, he's right. Like, I know that I understand that Lower Decks is not making a political statement. I get that. It's just a association that exists in my head that prevented me from enjoying that vignette.
Well, maybe Boimler is just spreading the conspiracy too. No.
Oh no!
Who knows that these Vendorians, which I forgot entirely, were from animated series.
Oh, they were.
I forgot that entirely. And so they have a whole joke of Levy here pretending they're real and making stuff up. And then he's like, when some of the things actually come true, he's just as shocked. Like, no, I thought it was funny. But I'm with you. Like, conspiracy theories and theorists are problematic. Maybe not necessarily the lizard people one, but there's a lot of conspiracies that need to shush and go away. So I was surprised as you were that one turned out to be real.
Yeah, and even the Vendorians said that the facts that this guy got right were still mixed with a lot of erroneous information.
Right.
So at least there's that. I did like Tendy's story, even though it wasn't set in a cave, it was set in an elevator.
We want to hear her story.
I thought her story was very cute, just like almost everything she does. It's just not, and by cute, I mean wholesome.
Yeah, like I was talking to a friend and realized like Tendy's first day on the ship is basically when Lower Decks begins, because the other three were actually already on the Cerritos before Lower Decks started.
Oh, that's right.
I've forgotten about that, and it was really fun to see Tendy's side of everything.
Yeah.
And it was just cute. It was sweet.
That reminds me, when I was at Dragon Con a couple months ago, I saw more people wearing Ritos shirts than I saw wearing disco shirts.
That's fun. I can
I
see
did
it.
I did not expect that because disco shirts have been around longer. And disco's been around longer,
Discovery is very contentious. For Lower Decks is safe. And this
apparently.
weirdness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty clear who Lower Decks is for. Some people might not agree about who Discovery is for.
All the politics they put in Star Trek with Discovery, because there's never been politics in Star Trek before Discovery.
There's never been Stacey Abrams in Star Trek before Discovery.
Yep, all them politics. Never had it once before in our life. All right, let's switch to the inner fight.
Which has nothing to do with the inner light.
No, nope. What? No. I don't see how one could make that comparison with a name like that. Nope, don't get it at all.
Did you know that the guy who wrote The Inner Light did a graphic novel sequel called The Outer Light?
I don't know if I did. If I did, I forgot entirely.
I think it was a proposed script for an episode of the TV show, and they decided that it would actually lessen the original. But I think what happened was they found a cryogenic, kind of like remember that first season TNG episode that reintroduced the Romulans, and they found all those old Earthlings that were frozen.
We're
So
back.
it was kind of like that, except instead of Earthlings, it was the people from the planet that Picard's memory had been zapped to in the Inner Light. So it was, instead of Earthlings, it was people from the planet that Picard had spent 20 years of his memory in, and one of the frozen people was the person he was married to in that life.
Oh, that's cool.
So now he has this memory of having been married to her, and she has none of those memories, kind of like when LaForge fell in love with a hologram of Leah Brahms, then met the real Leah Brahms.
It's like, oh, that's an interesting plot. It's like Jean-Luc has these feelings.
Right.
Even if he has no feelings for her, he has these feelings he remembers having for her.
Wait, Jean-Luc has feelings?
He might have one or two.
He's allowed. He has a quota, one a day.
You're the inner fight.
Yeah, what about it?
Mariner's still having her issues that no one is able to figure out what's going on. And the captain's like, we're going on a mission to try to solve this whole thing with this mystery ship that's going around destroying everybody. So she tells the other lieutenants, junior grade, to go take her away on this very safe mission. Well, the Cerritos goes and tries to hunt down who or whatever has been attacking everybody. Should we talk about the Cerritos part first?
Yeah, I mean, well, the Cerritos is specifically trying to get information about one of the 4 former Starfleet officers that they think is being targeted. And the choices are Thomas Riker, Beverly Crusher, 7 of 9, or Nick Locarno.
No one expected that last name.
I didn't expect, Beverly Crusher and 7 of 9. We saw both of them on Picard season 3 just earlier this year. Nobody's heard of or thought about Thomas Riker or Nick Locarno in a long time.
So will this also kind of confirm or puts a timeline on some things from Picard? That means Beverly and 7 of 9 have all left Starfleet within a year of Star Trek Nemesis happening.
Oh, remind me, is that when Lower Decks is set?
Yeah, Lower Decks is about a year and a half after Nemesis.
Okay.
Right now in the current time. So that means 7 has already left. Beverly has already left. And see, the last time we saw Riker, was he captured after stealing the Defiant, I think? Or gave himself over to the Klingons or Dominion, one of the two?
Yeah, he was being held by the Cardassians. He was a member of the Maquis who got captured. And at some point, I forget, I read this somewhere I think in one episode of Picard, maybe, it was mentioned that all the Maquis had, that's right, when Ro Laren showed up, Will Riker said how all the Maquis had been pardoned or something like that. So that would apply to Thomas Riker as well if he was released from Cardassian custody.
Yeah, so apparently he was or got away.
One of the two.
And then Nick Locarno, a name I did not expect to see ever again.
Right. I mean, how can they do that?
There's been I think I even thought of it too, a rumor that they couldn't use that again, Nick Locarno, because so they would have to give up rights to something like that.
Well, that's the whole reason they invented the character of Tom Paris.
allegedly. Apparently, this has been just something the community has been spreading for years, and we took it for truth. When actually it was like Ron Moore, one of the writers of Star Trek. Like they have no more rights to that character than anybody else. So,
Hmm.
so apparently it was one of those fan things that was never true. That
But
story.
that's weird. It would have been awesome if they had just used Nick Locarno for Voyager.
Yeah, I think if I could be misremembering, I think even Robbie McNeil talked about this on Delta Flyers, thinking it was a real story. I could be mistaken. It's been a while since I've heard that episode.
Hmm.
I know. Nope. Anyway, Nick Locarno. So Cerritos goes around trying to find out information on this mystery ship. It's funny seeing Captain failing miserably while they have this clear, to me, it was so obvious references to Star Wars. This is an homage to Star Wars with this mystery person who is in a suit, like the Mandalorian. All the planets they visited gave me very Star Wars vibes, and I think that was very much intentional, loving homage to it.
Well, I felt like the place they went to was a wretched hive of scum and villainy, for sure.
Yes, yes.
I did love the reference to the puppet character.
The big face. That was a lot of fun.
Because I don't think I actually saw that TOS episode, but it was a puppet back then, right?
Yeah.
And now it's real in a way that you can only do with a cartoon.
Right. That was a lot of fun. Just watching their little problems and pitfalls, and it was actually all part of Captain's plan all along. Captain Freeman.
Now, see, I actually didn't realize that they were basically doing what Leia had done with the bounty hunter outfit in episode 6. I thought the person under the bounty hunter helmet was going to be Nick Locarno.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing that they wanted you to think. I mean, I think I did too. Like I had no idea who it was.
I certainly didn't think it
Um,
would be that guy who his family lives on a medieval spaceship. I can't remember his name. He didn't.
our chief engineer,
Yeah, he did not strike me as a bounty hunter wannabe.
Billups.
Billups, that's it. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, that was a lot of fun. But that was all part of their plan. They got through that. They figured out their problem just in time because our crew, our lower deckers, who were off on this very safe mission to go fix like a satellite, um, end up getting uh captured and sent to a planet where all the people from those ships turned out they were still alive and dropped off on this planet.
Well, the people on that planet were the people who got overthrown. They were the
Yeah,
original captains of the ship. The lower deckers got saved, as we'll find
right.
out in the next episode. It took me a while to figure that out. But yeah, this was sort of a like the most dangerous game kind of episode where everybody is hunting each other and nobody trusts each other. Also, I think the movie Enemy Mine is very similar to this. And then they were able to bring them together and just in time for Mariner to get beamed away. But I love the moment she had in the cave with the Klingon. I thought that was really cool
I like that too. That was a very sweet thing. Like, of course, it's like,
because it was in that moment in the cave when we finally find out why Mariner's been so self-destructive, not just this season, but perhaps throughout all the seasons. It was because she lost her friend Ensign Cito.
yeah, that I did not see. Honestly, I have feelings
No.
about that. Um, but I'm glad we finally got an answer. Then it was this Klingon. Of course, it was someone during a fight who can get, and they had to pause their fight because
Yeah.
of the weather, which is hilarious. I have feelings about that reveal, but I'm glad we finally got an answer to why Mariner's been doing everything.
Well, I want to hear your feelings.
I'll get there in a second. I figured we talk about that first, but yeah, I was cool. Like, wow, Sita. I never thought that would be a reference I'd ever hear again before, but the feelings I had for it was like, this feels so out of left field, and there was nothing that built up to this. That it kind of felt like it didn't have all the gusto it should have. I can see them wanting to wait for the reveal, but I would have loved to have some kind of hints at all in the whole season.
Well, I can go either way with that. I think if they had worked in Ceto, they probably should have done it way back in season 1, because when the show was called Lower Decks, everybody was thinking of the TNG episode Lower Decks that Ceto was in, and they didn't make any connections to that episode. This, the 4th season's penultimate episode, is the first time they've tied Lower Decks into Lower Decks.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm glad they finally did that. I think, kind of like how you said earlier, there are things that happen to you that nobody knows about. I can kind of see that being with Mariner. I mean, this was clearly a traumatic experience for her, and I don't always talk about my traumas. Like that's not something I wear on my sleeve. So I can kind of see why she kept it close to herself. And as soon as I heard Sito's name, like even before the sentence was done, like my eyes started tearing up because like that's a death in the history of Star Trek that I've always regretted. You know,
Oh yeah.
I thought she was such a great character in that episode, and her loss was so profound because she didn't even get to accomplish her mission. You know, it's not like in Star Trek, not Star Trek, the Star Wars movie Rogue One.
Uh-huh.
You know, in Rogue One, you know, there may have been some sacrifices, but they made a difference along the way, and I don't feel like that's what happened with Sito, and I've always regretted that. And so to hear her name come up in almost any context, just to know that she's remembered, made it a little bit better.
I can appreciate that too. And I don't have an issue with Mariner, the character, not sharing anything. I just feel as part of storytelling itself, I felt like it cheapened the reveal. Not necessarily ruined it. Don't take me the wrong way there.
Right.
It didn't come with the punch for me that I think it should, other than, oh wow, I didn't expect to hear that name ever again.
Well, it's kind of like in Discovery Season 2 when we get to know the character of Arium just in time for her to die.
Yeah, that was the worst. That was terrible. That was so poorly done. Anyway, um also I bet you the actress for Cedo didn't expect to ever play her again too, because she retired from acting over 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
I didn't know she retired from acting. She wasn't in this episode, The Inner Fight, but she did come back the next episode, which is the final episode of the season, Old Friends, New Planets.
Yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit, but oh, well then, because I forgot she didn't appear until there. But the I mean, she was just here talked about it, so that's why. Anyway, the last final thing about The Inner Fight was that the whole thing with destroying the shield thing or the generator, whatever it was,
The Trinar shield.
Or whatever the device was blocking the planet, in The Inner Fight. It was totally from episode 6, where they had to block the shield generator from, or destroy the shield generator that was protecting the Death Star. That whole building looked just like that to me. Again, more the homage to Star Wars.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely.
So then, I mean, I guess it's kind of a cliffhanger, but not really. We end with the ship, the mysterious ship beaming a Mariner away, and then it to be continued.
Yeah, and she meets Nick and she knows who he is. And remember, she didn't know that the other members of the Cerritos crew were off looking for Nick. She was not privy to that mission's details. So when she recognizes Nick, it's from her own personal experience with him.
Yeah. To see him appear here, I had the same reaction. I was like, what? Like, even though they mentioned his name, I still didn't expect Nick Locarno to show up.
He looks much older than Mariner.
Well, that's what everyone is like, online discussion. People have been like, how old is Mariner? She's been through so much. And this dates her finally. She's in her 30s as well.
Nick Locarno in this episode is in his 30s and he's that gray.
Mariner is. Oh yeah, I have plenty of gray. I just turned 40 in my 40s.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Nick Locarno was a senior when she was a freshman, so he must be only about 3 years older than her.
Uh-huh.
And he just looks older than someone who's in his late 30s, early 40s.
I can see it. I guess I didn't have a problem with that, but
then again, Patrick Stewart was 44 when TNG debuted.
yeah, and he looked old. I mean,
I think he was 44. He was definitely in his mid 40s.
when I was young, I thought he was old there, but no, actually, it's not old.
Yeah, I remember. I remember when I was a kid. This is embarrassing. I was working at Blockbuster. One of my coworkers was in his 50s, and after he left his shift one day, I said to the manager, "Hey, how old is Wayne?" And they said 53. And I was like, "Oh, he looks good for his age." And my boss was like, "Ken, he's 53, not dead." But I was 17 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like 53 seemed really old, and now here I am knocking on 50's door. And well, not yet. I have another half a decade to go, but I can see it from where I'm standing.
You look good for your age.
Hey, I'm not dead. But yeah, shall we move on to the final episode?
Yeah, it's starting out with old friends, new planets.
Yeah, so there's a flashback here to Nova Squad. I made the same mistake one of my coworkers did actually, is like I looked up all the actors and I was like, wow, that is Robert Duncan McNeil. Wow, that is, as you point out, Sabriel, Shannon Phil, who's acting for the first time since the 90s. That didn't sound like Will Wheaton, but that was Will Wheaton. And then there was the fourth guy, and I was like, did they get back the same guy who played Josh before? And I spent several minutes of Memory Alpha trying to figure out who played Josh before. And it took me that long to realize, oh, right, the whole point of Nova Squad is that they killed Josh. We never saw him.
Right. That's funny. That's funny. That's not like Will Wheaton. That's him doing his kid voice.
There you go. That sounds like Will Wheaton.
I'm with Starfleet. We don't lie.
Yeah, you do.
Not Starfleet.
You lied about doing that starburst formation or whatever.
Don't lie. He wasn't in Academy yet. Anyway, that was Will Wheaton. It was so Will Wheaton, and you didn't hear it. That's interesting to me.
Well, I did only watch the episode once, and I was watching it with friend of the show, Dana.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes when you're watching a show with somebody, you're also talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we were trying to be like, I think our questions to each other of, is that Will Wheaton, may have been over Will Wheaton's acting. So we sort of defeated it for ourselves.
With this little cutback, we also see that Mariner was basically Boimler in her excitement about everything.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, she's so excited.
Aw, little Mariner.
We get to the real world Nova Fleet. We get the discovery there. Oh, of course, Nick Locarno has the Starburst thing as his insignia.
Of course.
Of course.
I'm still curious where he got all the tech, because you and I, well, maybe me, were chatting on prior to this episode airing, and I had a theory. So you had seen the 9th episode, I had not, and I said I have a theory about who is piloting the ship that's kidnapping all these other ships, and you're like, what's that? I said I think it's Section 31 Boimler, because that's too big a thread to leave dangling. I bet Section 31 has the tech to do this. And maybe evil Boimler misses his lower deck friend, so he's kidnapping other people's to make his own lower decks.
Uh-huh.
And some of that wasn't too far off. Like Nick Locarno was trying to recreate his own Nova Squad because he missed his Nova Squad. But what I didn't get right is it being Section 31. And that leaves the question of, where did he get all those wonderful toys? Now we know the Trinar shield came from the Binars, because apparently you can have 3 of them. But are we supposed to believe that that really powerful ship that was capable of depowering everything else is also Trinar technology? And if so, why did they choose to collaborate with him?
We approach these shows so differently, and it's even interesting sometimes.
Well, that's what makes for good podcasting, I hope.
It's like me, like it doesn't matter to me. A cartoon villain, where he gets
Whoa,
his money.
whoa, whoa.
Like no. As in, like it doesn't matter to me in regards like where he got the funding or ability to do this. Much like the Joker, or Penguin, like or any character.
Now, I never said it mattered.
It's like, but I don't think of as in I don't think about those things. Like, okay, yep, I just accept it as the it's not caveat, as the whatever it is of like, yep, this is just what it is.
It is what it is, as our friend TJ would say.
And that's just me. But he pointed out that there's no wood paneling or carpet like on the Starfleet ships.
Well, that reminds me that in the Strange New Worlds musical episode, one of the very first songs has the doctor and the nurse down at sick bay saying, no emergencies down here, just the daily mundane, like a sprained ankle and a splinter. And I was like, whoa, back up. A splinter on the Enterprise? Was there wood? Are they building these ships out of wood?
One of my partners said the exact same thing. And well, Pike's room does have wood paneling in it, but also you can get metal slivers too.
Splinters, though?
Or splinters, yeah. Yeah, you can get metal splinters. They're awful.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
So, like, all the questions I just raised about where did he get the tech and why did the Trinars work with him, that's not on your radar?
No. It's like, okay, this is what needs to have happened off screen to make this episode work. Like, okay.
But see, I want to peek behind the curtain and see what happened before this episode.
See, I'm usually that person. That's why I love DMing. I want to know how things work. I love watching behind the scenes shows. But when it comes to some shows or some fantasy, it has no interest in me at all. I'm like, this is exactly how we got. This is the way it is because that's how it is.
So the fact that you are often like this, even if you aren't in this episode, means you can at least understand where I'm coming from.
Oh, 100%.
Wonderful.
But it's like, to me, I don't think that story is probably interesting. That's why we skipped it all.
Okay. Works for me.
Yeah. And it clearly shows that it wasn't all gumdrops and other happy things.
Lollipops and rainbows.
Those two, all of those happy things, because no one wants to listen to him. Like, he just gets out here and has this big speech. He's got some charisma, clearly, but once it actually comes down to it, no one cares. It's like, you can't tell us what to do.
Yeah, it was amazing to me how getting kicked out of Starfleet ruined him so much that he's still bitter about it decades later. Like he was saying he had the perfect life taken from him. And at one point he even said he graduated top of his class.
You didn't graduate.
Yeah, Mariner corrects him. And she even says, like, Josh died because of your ego. And he can't face that. He still can't face that after all this time. And just like how losing Cito really had an impact on Mariner, Locarno lost both Josh and Cito. The only person from his squad who's still alive besides him is Will Wheaton. Or sorry, Crusher. Wesley Crusher.
Most heck, actually, from most people's point of view, they have no clue he's still around anymore either.
That's true, because he's a traveler now.
I would even posit, like, he doesn't care that those people died underneath him. Throw that possibility out there. He just sees it as his legacy. Remember, everyone starting the episode, everyone's like, everyone's gonna remember you, Nick. And he's like, no, it's gonna be Nova Squadron, but it's all for him. It's all his ego he was doing. He didn't care about his friends in that way.
Yeah, even at the end, he was saying to his supposed equals, these are my orders, you have to obey me. And they're like, nope, we're out.
Where Mariner lost someone, he didn't really lose anybody. If someone died under him, he didn't lose anyone.
He did lose something, which was his shot at a perfect life.
Right.
Ridiculous. I didn't even like in the flashback his justification to Wesley Crusher be like, think of how proud Captain Picard will be. I'm like, even if they had pulled it off without fatalities, Captain Picard would have been pissed.
Oh, absolutely.
There would have been consequences anyway, even if nobody had died.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm disappointed that young Wesley Crusher, who knows Captain Picard so well because they were trapped in that desert cave together, that he fell for it. I know from Harry Potter that it's hard to stand up to your enemies. It's even harder to stand up to your friends. But I wish Wesley Crusher had said something, and maybe Josh would still be alive. His blood is on Wesley Crusher's hands. Yeah,
it was actually part of the episode.
Was it? Oh, yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Basically, we get Star Trek II Wrath of Khan all over again as Mariner steals the Ferengi Genesis device, and that did they even have one? Is this funny? It was a callback to earlier this season.
Yeah,
Someone mentioned having it.
Can you remind me? I wasn't able to catch this when I watched the episode. What was that Starfleet ship that Mariner stole?
The ship was it was named after someone who used to design ships.
And was it like featured in the season somewhere?
No, it was just a ship named after him, but it was meant to be apparently her mom at one point served on the ship. And she memorized her mom's command codes, for whatever reason.
Why did Locarno have that ship?
We were never told.
Like, did he even mention having the ship?
Nope. She just happened to catch he was running, and she looked up and like, oh my god, like her, like there was no.
No, that doesn't make sense. There had to have been some reference, some mention of it. You don't just show up on a ship that you know your mom's codes to. Be out of all the places in the universe it could have been. It was right there.
If there was, no one's caught it.
That is weird. That is really weird.
I think it's more like Deus Ex.
I don't like it.
Kind of thing.
No, I don't. I do not like that at all. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was completely out of place. All of a sudden, it just happens to be. I mean, so that she rolled a nat 20, and all of a sudden, like, oh, there's a ship. Your mom's old ship is here. Score.
Yeah, but like that could have just as easily been the Stargazer or the Millennium Falcon. It could have been any. It could have been any ship.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
Like how she calls the Genesis device the GD.
Yes, I like that, and she actually like anthropomorphizes it.
Yep. Well, all this is going on. Tendi has a plan
Right?
to go break through the Trinar shield by going back home.
I love how all that is happening in parallel. Like they have time for that.
Right? I loved Erica so much. I love all these names from the Orions, like Beth and Erica, all these. And I just like Derek. I don't know. She's fun. She's cute, just like Tendi. And she's got a sword.
Yep.
So I love her. That whole bit was great with picking Maglimo, the therapist, the ship's therapist, to fight Beth because she has an allergy.
I thought it was cheap that the doctor didn't actually win because he made the Orion unconscious with allergies, but then she just happened to fall on him, and now she's the winner.
Oh, she pinned him down.
I know, but when they declared that the Orion had won, I was like, wait, what? She did? That had not been my interpretation of the battle when it happened.
Orion rules apparently. If he would have just ducked out of the way, he would have been the winner.
You know, there are so many rules of acquisition. Why can't the Orions have their own rules? Sure, why not?
Even made up ones like in this episode.
They're not made up. They're always adding new rules.
I'm very careful about it. Anyway,
I mean, everything on Star Trek is made up. Let's be honest.
But we get a moment with Rutherford, and was it what was that guy's name again from the earlier episode or season?
Livik.
He's having a feud with Livik. They're arguing about how to power up this derelict ship they get a hold control of, and they have to go do some twaining to solve their problem.
They do. Did you know that Livik is played by Nolan North, also known as Nathan Drake from the Uncharted video game series?
Thank you. You know, it's funny. I had just recently read him being in here. I bet you I even read him playing this part, but didn't take it to memory at all. And you said Nolan North. I'm like, I have no idea who that is, even though I just looked him up a few weeks ago. I never played those except for that train mission, like opening mission of one of the games where you're climbing a train that's falling. It's the series like name already is forgotten, left out my head. Free Fall for Safari, Indiana Jones, but not Nathan Drake, who should have been Captain Malcolm Reynolds. Nope, it's gone. Alan Wake, nope.
I mean, he's also been in a ton of video games, like Destiny, the game that was made by Bungie.
I like how you're just letting me make up all these names trying to remember the title of the series that you just mentioned.
Wait, those weren't real?
Those are all real, but I'm trying to remember the name with this Drake guy was in, and I'm drawing a blank.
Do you want me to tell you?
Not Indiana Jones, not.
I didn't know you had forgotten. I thought you were just just fun.
I'm trying to come up with it. I cannot. I thought you were just letting me go.
I am gonna let you go. I thought you were trying to demonstrate how forgettable it was.
No. I mean, maybe to other people, it's a very popular series, and I cannot think of it. Naughty Dog makes it.
Do you want me to tell you?
Ishtar. Nope, can't remember. Go ahead and tell me.
I'll tell you the first two letters. UN.
Unity. Undiscovered, unbroken, undeclared.
You're not going through customs here. Come on.
Uncharted. There we go.
There you go. All right.
This is why I don't remember actor names either. I say, dude, what was in whatever, because this is what happens in my head. So you just got the audio version of what goes in my head trying to remember people.
I am so glad that we are recording this. What I was trying to say was that he was also in Destiny, the series made by Bungie. They had originally cast Peter Dinklage, and then when they released some DLC, they recast Peter Dinklage with Nolan North. They re-recorded all the lines.
Captain Malcolm Reynolds was in that game too.
I believe that is correct.
I was very upset with that game, and I heard it was like, I'm sorry, I can't listen to you talk. I'm not interested in the story at all, even though I love hearing you talk.
Oh, I like Nathan.
Anyway, we get a ship. We do some twaining. We crash into the Trinar shield, and we get the captain's yacht.
Yeah, I thought it. Well, first of all, crashing an Orion battleship into a shield was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A little similar to how in Picard season 3, they threw a rock at the Changeling ship.
Yes.
And that was actually very similar to how Locarno died. Instead of effing solids, it was darn Ferengi. Yeah, and then it was interesting to me that the entire senior staff felt the need to be on the captain's yacht together, because that really eviscerated the command staff that was left on the Cerritos to the point where you have Boimler as captain.
So I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, think of it from Next Generation or any other show with a hero show. Think of it think of the show, think of this moment as them as the star of their own TV show. And then it made more sense to me. Not necessarily saying it's right. It made more sense to me that all of the command crew, of course, are going to be there because then they're having their own adventures. They're starring their own TV show. And it made more sense to me.
So does that make sense?
But it also shows a lot of improvement for Boimler. He talked to an admiral and back talked to an admiral. That's awesome.
His captaining was very good.
Yeah, this is so much growth for Boimler since season 1. So good for him.
Yeah.
I love the comment about we don't see the captain's yacht much.
Yeah.
That's a great comment. Oh, we totally skipped over the whole Rutherford and Boimler talking about Nick Locarno looking like Tom Paris.
They have the same face. They're identical.
I don't see it. If anyone would see it, it's Boimler because he has a Tom Paris plate.
I know, right? But maybe he's in denial.
Clearly, it can't be because he would know. And that's why.
I don't know if it was you, but somebody at some point, maybe it was on Twitter, like when Picard season 1 aired, and Picard and 7 of 9 were together for the first time in Star Trek televised history. Somebody posited a scene where Robert Duncan McNeil walks in on the two of them, and 7 of 9 says, "Tom?" and Captain Picard says, "Nick?" And he says, Robert Duncan McNeil holds up his hand and says, please, I can explain. And then the show cuts to commercial.
Yes.
And when it comes back, Picard and 7 of 9 are saying, "That makes perfect sense. Thank you for explaining."
Wasn't me, but it's brilliant.
And then they just go about their business and they never refer to him by a first name ever again. So I'm glad that they acknowledged it in some capacity.
So much fun. I mean, like the season, they solved the Tuvix problem by making it even worse.
Yep.
And here they solved the Nick and Tom by just lampshading it.
And killing one of them.
Yep. Good times. Then we get Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Like so many scenes being recreated from that movie.
And even sound effects and visuals. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Like especially like the ending when the Genesis device blows up. Like that's the graphic they used.
Yes.
It was beautiful. So beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting to me that Mariner was looking for a deserted planet to launch the Genesis device on. And in the end, it went off with no planet. It just turned a nebula into a planet. And I don't remember exactly how the Genesis device works, but apparently it does not need a planet.
Let me think, but apparently not. Or it was close enough because remember she was going to the planet, right?
I don't think it went off on the planet. I think it went off on the ship. That's what killed Locarno, and it was in the nebula.
What did it blow up on the Reliant too, didn't it?
Was that the name of Carol Freeman's old ship?
No, in Star Trek 2.
Oh, I don't know.
It was still on the Reliant when it blew up.
I think you're right.
So
yeah, it doesn't need a planet.
Must be proximity, right?
No, I think in both cases it pulled in the stellar dust from the nearby nebula and used that as its
made a
base
new one.
matter.
Yeah.
I think they even said it in this animated series episode. I think they said the nebula was transmogrified along with Locarno's atoms or something.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
It was the exact same thing. I like how here like everyone just knows what a Genesis device is. Even the Ferengi, he just made their own. Like it was this top secret project. Now it's just a well-known thing.
It's a black market Genesis device.
And of course there's a paywall on there.
Well, even in Picard season 3, when they went to the Daystrom Institute, there was a Genesis device 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things they had, along with the body of James Kirk and a weaponized Tribble.
Actually, a few weeks ago, they showed some more footage of more things that they had made for all those things.
For Picard season 3?
Yeah, like those secret things, like just to cycle through. There was some neat stuff on there, but stuff that never made it to TV.
And therefore it's not canon.
Yeah. But like even in like Picard, it was still like Genesis device was still this top secret thing, but by lower decks, it's like, yeah, it's just a thing everyone knows about apparently, and can make.
By the way, Memory Alpha says that this episode is set in the year 2381, and the flashback is from 2368, 13 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so if she was a freshman, and well, assuming that Starfleet Academy does freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, with ages similar to what we have now for high school, that would put Mariner now at like 27.
Okay.
And it would put Tom Paris at 30, 31.
Okay.
That's like even 10 years younger than you and I were positing.
Huh, something seems off, but right about that. Like you just logically right through it, but something seems like there's more there because everyone's talking about like, is she in her mid-30s? So I'll maybe do some digging if I think of it later.
I mean, she does act like somebody in her late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in my mid 20s, early 20s, late 20s.
Yeah, that was dumb.
I mean, in 10 years, I'm gonna look good for my age in my 50s, and I'm gonna look back at me being in my early to mid 40s, and I'll be like, I was dumb.
Yep, that's how it works.
I hope so, because that means we're getting smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mariner is rescued by Mom on her TV show.
Why couldn't they rescue Nick? They beamed Mariner out, but not Nick.
Didn't she even say like beam him quick?
But why couldn't they beam them out simultaneously?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because maybe they weren't going for him. They weren't looking for him. I don't know. I'm just throwing these ideas out.
I don't know. I mean, I really like the idea of redemption. I like it as an arc. I would have liked to have seen Nick Locarno be redeemed. He did some terrible things in this episode, but he was hurting. I mean, I know there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. A reason is why something happened, an excuse is why it's okay. What Nick did is not okay. There's no excuse for what he did, but the reason he did it is because he was hurting. He killed one of his best friends and he can't admit it. And that inability to move forward past that mistake has defined his life. And he'll never have a chance to move past it now. And I regret that.
I mean, there's definitely like if this was a longer TV show, absolutely, or an episode even, maybe more of a chance to do that. I can see where you're coming from, and I think everyone deserves a chance at redemption. I'm guessing more they're just going for a con type thing.
Yeah.
More mimicking the show than
Because I don't think anybody would describe Locarno as evil. You know, like I could argue that Khan was evil, but I would never argue that Nick was evil.
No.
But in the end, everybody wins, everybody's happy. And I thought it was very impressive that Starfleet won without firing a single shot. I did not consciously notice that when it was happening. But looking back, I was like, oh yeah, Mariner didn't fire a shot. The captain's yacht didn't fire a shot.
Mariner is Starfleet through and through, despite even if she doesn't like him all the time.
That is very diplomatic. I liked it.
However, not everyone is happy.
You talking about Tendi?
Yeah, Tendi had to go back to Orion. That was part of our deal to get the ship.
Well, I mean, we had a season where that ended with Boimler leaving to go serve on Riker's ship. We had a season where Captain Freeman got arrested. Seems like somebody's always leaving, somebody's always coming back. But I thought it was striking the look on Tendi's face. She took a deep breath, said, "You got this." And the way her eyebrows arched downward, it almost seemed like she had a plan.
Yeah, she's definitely got a plan, but she was not happy about having to start this. She was sad when she got the call, like, "Oh, your sister's here to pick you up."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, that's what I meant. Like, not everyone's happy, but I think either she has a plan or Starfleet has a plan. And we're gonna find out next episode, probably the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was, I think they said like diplomatic relations with the Orions for the first time ever almost.
Mm-hmm.
And also what Locarno was doing was kind of like what the Federation does, bringing all these disparate races together, the Bynars and the Romulans and the Klingons. I feel like there's some potential for what he was trying to do, and maybe we'll see something come from that in the future.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what he was going for. He was trying to make another Starfleet or Federation without the Federation and without really quite understanding what it takes. He just kept making all these empty promises, right?
That's a good point.
But he was trying to bring people together. That was his whole speech at the start.
I suppose that's true. That's interesting. But what was even the point of Nova Squadron? Like, Starfleet is about exploration and science. What was the point of Nova Squadron?
I think Nova Squadron was just a group of really good pilots, like a pilot training program.
Just pilots?
I think so. I mean, it was
Huh.
like more along the lines of a specialized training, or like colleges have their programs
Yeah.
of people with special interests. I'm thinking, I always felt it was more along those lines, or a group for people who are really good pilots.
Huh. Okay.
I could be wrong. I
I
just
don't
always
know.
had that impression. I could go to Memory Alpha, but that's not really the most interesting.
I know if people wanted to go to Memory Alpha, they wouldn't listen to Transporter Lock. But I did like Boimler pointing out that Nova Squadron or Nova Fleet was not the first totally independent, unaligned fleet in the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, right. Maquis like a word.
Hello. Yeah, this has
Uh,
all been done before, but just for different reasons. But
uh,
yeah, that is Lower Decks.
so season 4 overall, I think it was fun. We got some growth for some of our characters, more of the same humor and slapstick and good stuff. So I enjoyed it overall, just like I seem to all the time. How about you?
I also enjoyed it, but I don't know that I can rank any of the Lower Decks seasons because they all kind of blur together for me.
Yeah, absolutely. They all, I mean, and they all take place. I looked it up. They all take place within like a year's time frame. This
That makes
season
sense.
was the first season that a new year had rolled over since the show in universe, since the show had started.
Well, that makes sense because like Next Generation was 22 1-hour episodes, and this is 10 half-hour episodes.
Mhm.
So it would take them like 4 seasons of Lower Decks to produce as much content as 1 season of TNG.
Yet they solve so many big, huge problems much faster.
I mean, the universe is expanding and accelerating, and so are the problems in it.
Apparently.
But yeah, I liked it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I'll definitely go watch more Lower Decks if and when it airs. Looking forward to it.
Uh-huh.
And I will definitely chat with you about it on Transporter Lock.
Yeah, whenever that might be till 2024 where you get more Star Trek.
And hopefully I won't be in Munich because our internet here has not been as fastidious as we would like. That's not even the right
Reveal.
word, but I think people can infer my meaning.
It's not, it also hasn't been very circumference.
Now you're making fun of me.
No, I was going along with you.
But see, fastidious means neat and tidy, but it has the word fast in it, so it sounds like the right word.
Yep, that's all I got.
Well, you'll have more. Until then,
Hit it.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on iTunes and keep your hailing frequencies open by following us on Twitter at TransporterLock or subscribing to our podcast and email newsletter at transporterlock.com.
good job.
Thank you.
Let's hope this recorded.
Yeah, right?